Episode 1 of Panic! Panic sets off this new Amazon Prime series with a compelling game that's mired with logical issues. The fact that police haven't been able to suss out this game, and that the prize money is only $50,000, are certainly points of contention. Now, I understand that's still a fair amount of cash, but these kids could easily apply for a game show like Wipeout, Takeshi's Castle, or even a quiz show and win about the same amount. If the cash prize was higher, say $500,000, then it may be a little more believable. However, the episode does well to set up this group of characters and tease some conflicts to come. It seems like the show is teasing Natalie and Heather coming to blows in the near future, while the game's contestants will surely start to be whittled down one by one as well. Either way, the series sets things up reasonably well, if you can look past the obvious logical issues. Still, this is definite your territory, and the production design, along with the choice of music, feed into a pretty compelling opening chapter. The second episode of Panic continues to ask audiences to suspend their disbelief, as these games go ahead with a suspended walk across two towers. While not outside the norm, the fact that police have only just clocked what's going on this year is pretty suspect. It's also quite surprising that not a single kid has bothered to open up and mention anything on social media. It's not like they've signed NDAs, and given how prevalent apps like WhatsApp and Snapchat are among kids, and how police use these to their advantage, it's surprising not to see any of them at least mentioning something like "last night was amazing." Either way, the police are starting to wisen up now, and the link between members of the police force and the kids is starting to become clearer. However, the episode also opens things up nicely for the rest of the season, with lots of intriguing ideas and question marks over who's actually the ringleader behind these games. As the episode closes out, Amazon's latest series certainly hits all the usual beats, but it juggles that nicely with a solid mystery. The third episode starts to see allegiances shift as the different players all team up and form cliques to try and win this game, and see it play out. I'm quite surprised more people didn't kick off about the second game being null and void though, especially given half the candidates actually crossed. Wouldn't it have made more sense for the judges to collect up the candidates who didn't cross and start a similar crossing somewhere else? Anyway, I guess we're onto this breaking and entering gig with Spurlock instead. This is another point of contention, especially after the Spurlock farm incident in 2012 resulted in a dead body being found there. With police all over this case, surely they would have gone back further into the game's history and pieced together its origins. Either way, the setting is certainly tense enough to warrant this breaking and entering gig. The series itself is certainly bingeable though, and there's an element of fear factor and so wrapped up in this. You want these kids to come up against different obstacles and see what they're made of. This episode sees Natalie start to turn on her friends too, setting up some intriguing drama to come in this adaptation. The fourth episode slows things down as we see more teen drama seep into this show. With no games this time around, save for the early shenanigans at the farm, the show instead turns its attention toward the different candidates and their stakes in this game. No one has seemed to figure out the correlation between these games, and that an adult could be involved is beyond me. Of course, I'm writing these recaps, as always, in the moment, and this could be way off from what happens in the future episodes, so take these words with a grain of salt. Given what was in Farmer Spurlock's basement, it's not too much of a stretch to believe he's involved. Then again, the show seems to be hinting that this falls to Bishop instead, who obviously leaves the party with red paint over his hands. Now, this could be a red herring or he could be heavily involved. We'll have to wait and see. Either way, this show has enough intrigue to keep things interesting, even if you do have to suspend your disbelief with this one. Episode 5 changes the game, highlighting the very real dangers imposed on these games. This fire will almost certainly have long-lasting effects for Heather if she manages to make it out of this alive. Of course, the police are tightening their investigation now too, and may well start to watch these kids a lot closer. Then again, if someone from the police force is behind this, tampering with evidence and planting red herrings, that could well be why everything is so open. Meanwhile, the show continues to push its teen drama forward, with each of the kids talking about their parents and difficult upbringings. While welcome, it's also a bit clumsy and feels shoehorned in, rather than naturally progress through the story. I'm not quite sure why all of this was squeezed into a 10-minute space either. There's plenty of runtime, and some of this could have been saved for the haunted house. Despite that, the episode finally has another game show up, this time with lots of clues. The ending seems to hint that this game will be completely voided too. I'll tell you what, whoever organized the games this year has done a pretty awful job so far. Episode 6 of Panic returns with another dramatic chapter, one that sees the issues after the fire turn toward the back end of these challenges. Now it seems clear that everything is gearing up for this final, and last year's judges are revealed to be Jimmy and Shay. It appears like a lot of people are involved in this panic game, with betting potentially a large part of this. It could well be that there's a massive underground hierarchy involved here, with lots of betting and high-stake gamblers, but we'll have to wait and see if that comes to fruition. In the meantime, the show continues to spin its teen drama alongside the panic game, with Natalie and Dodge growing closer together. Likewise, Bishop and Heather finally open up and speak their piece, leading to the pair almost kissing at the end before being interrupted. The ending certainly leaves the door wide open for more though, with a big ol' cliffhanger to whet the appetite. Episode 7 of Panic starts to deepen the mystery now, setting up a compelling third act to follow in this game. There's a lot being hidden from view, while each of the contestants have secrets they've been keeping. In fact, these are eventually unveiled in that game across the train tracks, with Ray openly talking about Heather. Quite what he's divulged, however, remains to be seen. Anything's for sure though, this game is far from over, and one way or another we're going to figure out who the judges are involved in this whole mess. Is it Bishop? Or maybe Ray? Whoever it is, this mystery is bound to come unraveled soon. Episode 8 of Panic. The final challenges are yet to be decided, but this episode brings up a mixed bag of shocking, and not so shocking, reveals. The mystery regarding last year's game is still very much prevalent here, and it all builds up to quite the conclusion when we learn that Jimmy was the one who switched the guns around in Russian roulette. On top of that, it also seems like Myra was the one who blackmailed Abby, unhappy that she was part of the games. Meanwhile, drama encircles this episode's round of eliminations. Dodge and Ray both make it through, but Natalie is disqualified for not completing her challenge. However, this brings up the question around Ray cheating by snapping photos and pretending that Tyler was still in the game. Surely by this logic, the judges would disqualify Ray for coercing and misleading them? I know this is all just a game, but the inconsistency with this is certainly annoying. However, all of this leads nicely into the final 2 episodes, where drama looks set to encapsulate the finale to this year's Panic Games. Panic's penultimate episode brings up quite the dilemma, as it turns out that police have been involved in all this since the very beginning. However, it also brings up some big questions around exactly how long Cortez has been involved. Does this date all the way back to 2012? The game has been around for a long time it seems, but no one knows about its inception, or how it came to be, unless I've missed something of course. However, this episode does bring some revelations to light, revealing that Cortez was the one behind everything, and that he's the real ringleader here. It's perhaps the best narrative explanation too, given the police ties needed to cover up a substantial amount of evidence and keep everything ticking along with red herrings and fake-outs. There are still question marks hanging over this, but it seems like Bishop is the bagman in all this, in charge of controlling the money, while Natalie is one of the 2 judges. Cortez oversees everything through betting. With a tiger on the loose, lots of drama, and everything riding on this final 40-minute chapter, Panic sets up a tense finale to follow. 10th and the last episode of Panic bows out with a conclusive chapter that just about wraps everything up, but also leaves things open for a possible second season too. It seems like Cortez is dead as well, but given we didn't actually see what happened with the tiger, we can't completely rule him out from coming back either. Heather wins the money in the end, and seemingly decides to stick around after all, and hang with Ray. She's found a newfound passion with her writing, and will undoubtedly now use that as a driving force going forward. This sets things up nicely for a potential follow-up, especially with that ominous conclusion leaving a scarecrow on Heather's windscreen. There's also the little question of exactly who the other judge was as well. It's hinted throughout the season that it's Bishop, but it seems that he's not, especially if the trivia portion of Amazon's interface is anything to go by. Either way, the ending leaves things open for a possible follow-up, with lots of intriguing ideas in the mix. While this has been a pretty turbulent season overall, and one that forces viewers to seriously suspend your disbelief with, there's definitely some intriguing parts to this drama that just about warrant a second season.